Hello, everybody, and welcome to this special Google Hangout in the holiday season. We are recording this Hangout in the middle of November, and we hope you can watch it all through the holiday season. I am Veena Kanke, the Director of Grants and Partnerships at Dining for Women, and I have two guests with me. First, I have Mansi Mehta, who is the Manager of Global Cause Partnerships at UNICEF, and she is joining us from New York City. Hi, Mansi.
Hi.
I also have Amy Moore, who is our tech support today, and we are going to have a conversation with UNICEF USA today. As all of you know, and most of you have read your emails, you must have heard and you must have seen our press release that the Dining for Women board has approved a impact partnership grant with UNICEF USA. We will be fundraising for two different projects. One is the Empowering Syrian Refugee Women in Jordan for $100,000. And the second one is Response to Gender-Based Violence in South Sudan. As all Dining for Women members know, all donations to Dining for Women fund our four different programs: our grants, sustained and featured, our partnerships, our advocacy program, and our member education program and operations. So we are now trying to generate the funds that can support this impact partnership grant. And as all of you know, we are also in the midst of our 13th month annual appeal. So let's get started, and we will start with a short film that is from UNICEF USA, and do bear with us as we are trying to get this technology worked out.
Look closely. Really closely. Deep into the eyes of a child. See their hope. And ours too. Whoever she is, wherever he lives, every child deserves a childhood. That's why UNICEF is there, for each and every child. Working day in, day out, in 190 countries and territories, reaching the hardest to reach, the furthest from help. It's why we stay to the end and never give up. Will you stand with us?
Stand with us. Stand with us. Stand with us.
For every child.
We are back in our Google Hangout. Mansi, can you see us? Can you hear us?
I can hear you, but I can't see you.
Oh, okay. Why don't you go ahead and start your presentation, and we will figure that one out.
Sure, sounds good. Well, Veena, thank you so much for that introduction and for showing the video so beautifully. I'm going to go ahead and start my presentation here. So what I plan on doing very briefly throughout this presentation, before I begin, I just want to say thank you so much to you, Veena, to all of Dining for Women leadership and the members. We are very excited about this partnership and look forward to seeing the sustainable impact that we'll be having together in the lives of the most vulnerable women and girls. So before diving into the conversation, I'd like to provide you with an overview of UNICEF's work, this distinction really between UNICEF and UNICEF USA and what our role is here, and also just go over what UNICEF's reach is, its expertise, its presence, its history, and its impact. And then I will end with briefly providing you with a little bit more detail on the two projects that Veena mentioned that Dining for Women will be supporting UNICEF USA on. All right, so To begin, I'd like to start by saying that, as you can see from this slide, UNICEF was founded in 1946 by the United Nations, really as a cry for help to help the children of post-World War II Europe. And then in 1953, UNICEF became a permanent member of, permanent part of the United Nations. And by this time, UNICEF's mandate had broadened quite significantly. So it no longer was focusing on just the emergency aspect of children, but really UNICEF dove right in and started working with children all over the world. Now you can see is active in 190 countries and territories, and to help children not only just survive, but also to thrive. UNICEF's mission really is to protect and advocate for the survival of children and develop children, and really believes that human rights are critical to international development, especially for children and the most vulnerable, which includes girls. So now I'll dive in to tell you a little bit more about who UNICEF USA is. We are one of the 34 national committees that UNICEF has. So we are an independent NGO, but are indispensable partners to UNICEF's mission to really ensure that the rights of all children everywhere are protected. So our sole purpose really is the financial support, but of course, in addition to the fundraising aspect of our work, we focus on the education and the advocacy piece through engaging all Americans in the United States. And our vision really is a better world for children everywhere. So UNICEF is based in now 191 countries and territories. So from this slide, you can really get an idea of what our scope and what our reach is across the globe. Now I'll jump right into telling you a little bit more about where UNICEF focuses programmatically. So we have 7 key components that encompasses our work. And this includes health, water, sanitation, and hygiene, nutrition, HIV/AIDS, education, child protection, and social inclusion. Now, I do also want to mention that UNICEF has 2 cross-cutting themes. And what this means is that throughout each of these 7 components, UNICEF is focusing on including these 2 components within each of these areas. And so these 2 components are gender equity and humanitarian aid. So gender equity is included within all 7 sectors, and so is humanitarian aid. Next, I'd like to focus on what UNICEF's strategic plan is from 2018 to 2021. As some of you may recall, for a while the United Nations was focusing on something that was called the Millennium Development Goals. And as of last year, or almost 2 years ago now, our focus was on the Sustainable Development Goals. Our focus is on the Sustainable Development Goals. So within those goals, we have a few goals that we as UNICEF are focusing on. The first is ensuring that every child survives and thrives. So having this focus on nutrition, maternal and neonatal care, immunization, preventable illnesses, adolescent health, and HIV/AIDS. The second goal is that every child learns. So focusing on gender equity, ensuring that girls are kept in school throughout their adolescence so that we can prevent early child marriage, out of school children, and learning skills development. The third goal is every child protected from violence and exploitation. So this includes violence, harmful practices, and access to justice. And studies indicate that women and girls are more likely exposed to violence and harmful practices than men and boys are. So UNICEF really encompasses the component of gender equity and making sure that we are doing everything in our capacity to make sure we're reaching the most vulnerable girls and women. Goal 4 is every child in a safe and clean environment. Gender equality, adolescent empowerment, and in some cases, you will see that adolescent girls are putting on plays for their community, these small skits where they're talking about why they should be included in the conversation, why they should continue their education, and why it's not okay for them to be treated differently than their male counterparts. Social protection, and of course, child poverty. Goal 5 is every child has an equitable chance in life, such as safe drinking water, child-responsive urban settings, pollution, and climate action. Now I'll be using the remaining few minutes that I have to talk about the 2 projects that Dining for Women will be supporting. The first project is UNICEF's Empowering Syrian Refugee Women in Jordan. Sustained conflict and violence in Syria has led to a steady influx of refugees to Jordan settlement camps and other locations at the Jordan-Syria border, which is now closed. As of January 2017, 655,496 Syrians were officially registered as refugees. So clearly this mass influx of refugees has placed a strain on public services with women and children. And they have been the most affected in this crisis overall. Many Syrian refugee mothers and their infants lack access to appropriate maternal and newborn health care. Women in particular are unable to access employment that really would allow them to secure basic necessities for their families, such as food, water, shelter, and clothing. So the project, with your support, the $100,000 partnership grant, will provide safe and lawful employment opportunities for Syrian refugee women so that they don't have to resort to exploitive and high-risk jobs to just bring food to the table and make sure that their families are being taken care of. The project will also address the need for maternal and newborn health care services for new mothers and their infants. So UNICEF will identify vulnerable women within the refugee camps and host communities to train them to produce life-saving newborn kits. Very quickly, these kits will contain vital items for both the mothers and babies, such as clothing, cots, baby diapers, baby blankets, and other hygiene items. The women will also receive monthly payments in line with national standards and regulations with the Jordan government. The newborn kits will then be distributed to vulnerable Syrian refugee families to promote maternal and child's health care. So the impact of your support will be extremely crucial to these maternal and newborn infants. And the partnership is expected to reach an estimated 1,030 vulnerable women in Jordan. And the funding will provide 30 vulnerable women with employment for a 1-year period while supplying 1,000 mothers and their newborns with critical health care packages. This partnership will empower Syrian refugee women and will provide them with opportunities to participate in the workforce and make a meaningful difference in the lives of vulnerable mothers and their newborns. The second project is called Response to Gender-Based Violence in South Sudan. South Sudan's independence in 2011 occurred after more than 2 decades of near continuous war. The new republic continues to face internal conflict, and on February 20th, 2017, very recently, famine was declared. So this deepened the humanitarian crisis in the region even more than it already had. More than 2 million people have been displaced by violence in South Sudan, and 87% of those are women and children, including girls. Gender-based violence is an urgent issue with high levels of sexual violence prevalent throughout the country. So Dining for Women's $100,000 partnership support will prevent gender-based violence and provide response services for women and children. And this will encompass 4 key areas that UNICEF will be able to focus on. This includes gender-based violence mitigation, psychosocial support, awareness campaigns, and capacity building. Your investment will support critical gender-based violence prevention and response for approximately 2,640 women and children in South Sudan. Our partnership will respond to the survivors of gender-based violence while mitigating risk to protect women and girls today and in the future. So by investing in this project, thousands of girls in South Sudan will be given a second chance to grow in a stable, nurturing, and protective environment. So thank you so much for your support, Vina. That ends my presentation, and so I will give it back to you.
Okay. Well, thank you, Mansi, for that presentation. I'm waiting for you to come back to us on screen. There you are. What our members don't know, Mansi, is that you and I have been in conversations about this partnership for almost a year. Right. So my question to you is, what makes Dining for Women such an interesting partner for you?
Yeah, that's a great question, Vina. And as I said earlier in my presentation, it really is an honor to be able to work with Dining for Women leadership, and I'm very excited to get to know the members. My role here at UNICEF USA is to focus on women's organizations. And before I had my first conversation with Vina, I was doing incredible research to find some of the top organizations, women's organizations, and Dining for Women really touched my heart because of the collective giving model that you have. You come together as women in a community to then help create sustainable long-term impact for other women and girls in need. And that, in my opinion, and in UNICEF and UNICEF USA's opinion, is a very beautiful thing. So we're very excited here.
We are all really excited about this Impact Partnership Grant too. So give us some idea of what UNICEF can do, because our members have often asked us whether we could fund a featured grantee in areas of conflict, and that is sometimes a little high risk for us, and high risk even for the nonprofit that would be in that country because they're smaller. Given UNICEF's size, what are you able to achieve that smaller organizations are not necessarily able to do?
Sure. So UNICEF actually just celebrated its 70th birthday last December, so we're almost 71 years old. Something that I'd like to highlight is that UNICEF is very proud of its reach, its presence, and its expertise. UNICEF has a presence, as I said, in 191 countries and has been present since the early 1950s and 1960s. And UNICEF really works hard to work with all stakeholders. So we are working on the ground with the government, with local NGOs, with the community members, faith-based leaders. We are training community health workers. We are training social workers. And the staff on the ground, 85 to 90% of the staff that is working at the country level are local citizens from that country. So that there is this trust involved and embedded into the system. We're able to get things done because we've been there for so long. And we are usually not the implementer, but we're the technical advisor in situations like this. And an example of conflict areas, Vina, I can say is, UNICEF has had days that we call ceasefire days, where we've negotiated with the government, we've negotiated with even the rebels who are the ones causing this political unrest in countries, because they have children themselves. So we go to them, we try and negotiate with them, and we say, hey, we're looking out for your children as well. So let's have these 3-day periods of peace where we're vaccinating your children, where we are providing you with the basic necessities that you need for your child to survive and then thrive. And that's something that, I take a lot of pride in working here for.
So in the time left, I wanted to kind of ask you a few pertinent questions about the 2 Impact Partnership grants that Dining for Women is fundraising for. Mm-hmm. So in the Jordan project, we have communicated to our members that if and when Dining for Women generates those funds and we are able to give it to UNICEF for the Jordan project, that it is a seed project, that you're looking for seed funding. And I understand there is another funder who is also fundraising, Next Gen. Can you tell us a little bit about that in the really short time that we have left?
Sure. So Next Gen is a group of young philanthropists, and they have also selected this Jordan project to raise $100,000 for. And if you recall from my presentation, I said the $100,000 that you will be providing will support 1,030 women and be able to provide these newborn kits to the community within the refugee camps and host communities. So with this additional funding, we can make even more of a greater impact in the lives of these women and these newborn infants. So by, combining forces, as we can say, that will only enable us to create more of a sustainable impact for the women on the ground.
Mm-hmm. With regards to the South Sudan project, can you briefly expand on what exactly GBV risk mitigation would be and the psychosocial support that you offer to women and girls?
Sure. So what I mean by GBV mitigation is really UNICEF taking the steps to reduce the risk of exposure to gender-based violence. And this includes ensuring sufficient lighting and security patrols at displacement camps and protective patrols to help women who go outside the camps to search for firewood, or even women and girls who are going outside to use the restroom. I mean, it's really this combination of making the environment conducive to mitigation as well as the security patrol that is there in the camps.
Okay.
The psychosocial piece, sorry, I missed that. That piece is really to help girls overcome difficult experiences that they've had. So that includes rape, sexual abuse, and other forms of gender-based violence, and really just be that support system for them and talk to them and show them that we are there to listen to them and help them.
Mansi, thank you so much. We have run out of time for this Google Hangout. I know that our members are fascinated and interested about this impact partnership grant that Dining for Women is entering into with UNICEF. We will direct our members to the UNICEF partnership page that we have on our website. We will be sharing the videos with them that you have sent us. And when it comes time, we will also share the reports that you will send us. So do stay in touch, and we wish you the very best.
Thank you. Thank you so much to Dining for Women and all of your members. I look forward to getting to know you more.